Hi there, my name is Cupicate, and this is actually future Cupi coming to you guys with a little bit of information for this video that you are about to watch. I know on the schedule I wrote it is supposed to be Mikhail's day, and I fully intended to start the new series with him today, but when I looked back, I thought, we haven't really gotten to the point in the Wolf Talk from last Sunday of what happens after Dusk comes in and joins Mikhail after losing Dawn. And that information is kind of important to know before we jump back into the next year of having a litter. So y'all have an idea of where Dusk is at, because Dusk is not going to be with them when they come back to Slough Creek. And it may play a part, possibly, as I'm still figuring out a cool goal, quirk, and flaw for our two brothers that might mingle together. Some of those may have to do with what happened with Dusk, and so y'all need just a little more information before we yeet ourselves into the next year. Even though, yes, I am very excited for more puppies. So anyways, y'all go ahead, enjoy the video, and I will see you next week for Mikhail's first episode of Brothers Bond. Dusk essentially watches as Crevice Lake rips Dawn apart. She's already weak. She's tired. She's still injured, kind of, from her previous moose hunt. She can't get away. She doesn't have the stamina. She doesn't have the energy. She doesn't have the fortitude. And these wolves literally skipped over Dusk to go after her. Just her. Like, they just hop skiddly doo-dah and was like, nah, we don't have business with you. And they were on her. So as you can see in this part, going back and watching, they're right there. Should have known better just from that alone. But as you can see here, now that we're kind of frame by frame, they just went after her. See, they didn't even go after Dusk. He was right there the whole time, and they just continued to attack her, which is crazy. They didn't attack Dusk at all. At all. Now, to be fair, he did just kind of stand there, which was really sad. Oh, no. He didn't attack them. At any point, he just kind of threatened and growled at them. He just watched the whole thing happen. That's a little disappointing, I will say. And I think that in the episode, I noticed that, which made me more mad at Dusk, and it made it very easy for me to blame him for everything, because as I'm playing this and I'm seeing Dusk not help her at all, at no point did he bite down. It does look really bad for him right now. And maybe in some way, there were a lot of things going through his mind because it happened so fast. They were on her. She was struggling. He possibly was in shock. Like, whoa, where did they come from? What is going on? And then he's like, oh, I need to go help her. Maybe they didn't let him in, and in some ways that complacency that we talked about still played a part, like, oh, she's gonna get out of this, and then she falls. But it happened really fast. I mean, really, really, really fast. So yes, even though he didn't attack and react, between the time they got on top of her and the time she died was probably a span of 5 seconds. Okay, I just went back and watched. It was actually 10 seconds, which is kind of a long time in gameplay when you think about it, but still not that long. Dusk did nothing because he didn't know what to do. I think he was in a state of shock. I think that they didn't give him an opening to get in and help her, but also the fact that they just attacked her. It was clearly an attack because she was a Snagglefang. And that just shows the brutality and the hatred that Crevice Lake has specifically for her as a Snagglefang wolf. She smells very much like a Snagglefang. And it's probably so apparent what a Snagglefang smells like because of the fact that they have husky blood in them. They can probably sniff that out so easily and go, yep, that's a Snagglefang. I can smell it. And so they went after her. And then what's even stranger, and I know this is the game thing, but they just walked away. Oh no, they did attack Dusk. Wait, they did. Oh, they did attack Dusk. Okay. So it looked like they were going to walk away. Maybe it would be cool for Dusk to possibly say something like, you know, you'll pay for this or something like that. Like they were planning to leave and not do anything. And once he realized, like once he came out of his shock of what had happened and the fact that she was on the ground, he may have been like, you'll pay for this, or I'll come after you, or I'll bring reinforcements, or maybe he said something threatening, or maybe he even tried to wake her up. Maybe he went over to her and was like, Dawn, come on, wake up. And when they realized what he was doing, they went back to possibly kill him and make sure that the job was done even. So I almost like that version better, that he went over and he was like, Dawn, come on, get up, or something, trying to see, like, is she still alive? And they saw that and they came back and they made sure it was finished and attacked Dusk. And so he probably witnessed them finishing the job and realized that she was gone and ran away, to make sure that the pups were okay, because at some point in his mind he would have had to think, if I don't get out of this, those pups die. So he would have had to have left. I like this. I feel like we're story building as I have a wolf talk. Anywho. So he goes back to the rendezvous site without Dawn, probably reeking of her blood, his own blood, and other wolves' blood. I'm sure the pups are shaken just by his scent alone, and he essentially has to break the news that Dawn is not coming home. I feel like Dusk would not sugarcoat it, but he wouldn't be a brute about it. Probably telling them that it's just going to be us for now. You know, your mom is in the endless hunting grounds, which is something that I had Bane kind of passed down. So they don't really have the belief of Eartha yet, because it's an old religion that was lost to the wolves of Yellowstone, because those wolves were reintroduced to that area, and so they didn't necessarily have that information. It kind of died a little bit. So only the old wolves that came essentially down from like the Canada region would still have that religion with them of Eartha and the other goddesses. So the Yellowstone wolves have their own, not really religion, but their belief of what happens when you die is that you go to the endless hunting grounds, and that's essentially where you hunt forever, and that there's plentiful food, and that you're never hungry because there's always something there. You probably know the concept of heaven, and that's what their heaven is the endless hunting grounds. And so he will probably explain it that way. Essentially, that's where your mom is, and she's happy, but she's not with us anymore, because she's gone. Like, he would explain in his own way that she died, and as they got older, they would understand what that meant. I think at first, I've had this discussion with some of you, especially you, Breadcrumb, and Snow, about how Dusk would have been after Dawn died. And I think he would stay awake at night, trying to figure out what happened. And I think in the beginning, in his mind, he would blame himself quite a bit. It would be completely natural if someone you love died right in front of you, for you to blame yourself. That's normal. If I had nothing to do with somebody dying in front of me, I would still feel like I didn't do enough, because you want to protect the people you love. And maybe we don't always feel that way, but I know if I was in that situation, I would have been like, whoa, I didn't do anything. It was all my fault, you know, even though it's not like I was the one attacking her. It was Crevice Lake. So Dusk is there, laying awake at night, thinking of everything he did wrong, and he goes back to him eating the carcass. And in some way, he thinks that's what started it. And so he goes into this mindset of, I need to get food for these pups, and I can't eat any of it. He's by himself. He doesn't immediately think, I need to find another mate, because he just lost Dawn. So he goes out and he gets just enough food for these pups to survive. It's probably still not quite enough. I imagine that they're still very skinny. But he is starting to wither. As the days pass where he's getting less and less food, his tummy is shrinking, his ribs are starting to show, and he's getting barely scraps and bone from the pups because he can't seem to get enough food. He's stricken with grief for his last mate. He's trying not to blame himself, but he can't help but blame himself. He's not sleeping at night because he's thinking, what did I do wrong? What did I not do? This is all my fault. How could I have done better? He is beating himself up. He's a king brought so very low. And then a couple days before he ends up leaving with the pups, he thinks that he needs help, and so he does go and look for another mate. But there are not many available to him, and the ones that are judge him heavily for the fact that she's gone. As wrong as this sounds, these females look at him and they think, you should have protected her. Why didn't you protect her? And he just didn't come across the right females, but this is what those females saw in him. A male wolf that couldn't protect his queen. And so they didn't trust him to take care of them. And they weren't sure about taking on another female's litter. It's a lot easier for a male to come in thinking, oh, well, your other mate didn't protect you, but I can. And then you'll have my pups. But another male looking for a female, it's not as lucky for Dusk, at least in this situation. It may not be that way for every wolf, but he didn't find the right females. And then after that, he realizes he cannot do it, or he's going to die, and the pups will too, because he won't be there to take care of them. So it's getting close to the time that the pups are old enough to go to the rendezvous site. But Mallow has grown so ill that he can't make the move. And so Dusk tries to keep waiting. But that same night that he's waiting, an extra day, Steigander and Mallow lay together. Because they're the only two brothers of that litter. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was only Mallow and Steigander that were the males. The brothers are laying together, and Steigander can tell that Mallow isn't doing well. Even at his age, he can just tell. And he's laying there, hoping that Mallow will make it. But he stops breathing. Mallow's death is the thing that pushes Dusk the hardest to leave. And so it comes to the day when Mikhail and Teo, they're back together. They're about to leave to go to Tower Fall, essentially the place where they're going to be permanently until the next litter is ready to happen. So while they're training up their yearlings, essentially, they're almost yearlings, I should say. They're half years? I don't know. So as it becomes time to make their way to essentially Tower Fall, or wherever they're going to stay in this next stage of the pups' lives to start training them how to be wolves into their yearling years. Dusk howls. He howls at finding Mallow dead next to Steigander. A desperate, hollow, dry howl. At that point, he orders the pups to move with him and tells them that they're going to their grandfather. They're tired, they're weak, they're hungry, but they all move. And during that trip, Dusk is howling along the way. This is good and bad. It's good because he's letting Mikhail know that he's coming. It's bad because he's now told all of Crevice Lake where he is. And so, during the trip, Crevice Lake does arrive at some point and gets a hold of Nightingale. Now, this is all from the rolls that I made after Dawn died. We rolled for the pups to see who lived and who died. Mallow and Nightingale both died. Mallow died essentially from sickness, as I said before. Nightingale I chose to make it Crevice Lake because I am painting them to be a bad guy. It's for the purpose of the story. That doesn't mean that all Crevice Lake wolves are bad. We've just had a lot of bad run-ins with them, so they're very easy to make the bad guy in this story. What's funny is that they don't end up being the big bad guy, but they do still remain an enemy of the Snagglefangs. They're essentially the Shadow Clan-ish, not even the Shadow Clan. They're like run by a tiger claw, essentially. They're run by this mean wolf that has their own opinions about things, and because they're such a big pack and they have so many mouths to feed, they're unwilling to share the land at all. They are unwilling to even really allow their land to be taken. They were so devastated by what Charm did that they have a huge, huge hatred for the Snagglefang pack, because it started with Aspen and his ambitions. It went on to the Phoenix pack with Charm and the fact that she wanted vengeance. And then because Mikhail helped Charm, they hate him too. So it's just, they were already kind of a mean, unbearable pack, but a lot of the actions between Aspen, Charm, and Mikhail has made them worse. They have become hateful and bitter. And then talking to Teo also made them worse, because he's saying, well, we should all share and we can help each other out. And instead of hearing we can help each other, they're thinking, I'm not going to help you with anything. We can barely help ourselves. And so they hate him too. And he also smells like a Snagglefang. That doesn't go unnoticed. And the fact that he smells like that, I'm sure it's very easy for them to turn him away. And that could be a lot of the reason why he was attacked so brutally. Maybe he even heard himself called Snagglefang scum or something along those lines when he was attacked. And that's what made him think of his brother, is because they called him a Snagglefang, even though he's not. It's all tied together. So as Dusk is making his way, a couple of Crevice Lake wolves find him and the pups moving. They attack, and in the scramble of getting all the pups in the grass, Dusk is in no shape to fight. Absolutely no shape to fight. Not at all. He can't. He's just trying to get the pups to hide, and he's pretty sure he's gonna perish, but they get a hold of Nightingale and they kill her. And so Nightingale dies to the Crevice Lake wolves. And Dusk is doing his best to try and make a show, but he's not fooling anybody. He's so skinny and so tired. Like, he looks like another 2 days without food, and he's not alive anymore. And these Crevice Lake wolves can see that. They're full and they're strong and they're angry. But right as they are about to attack Dusk and take his life, Mikhail and Aurora and probably Kirby show up. Maybe even with Teo? Aurora has had a lot of danger happen to her, so maybe Aurora wouldn't go. Also, I don't know that Mikhail would let her go. I'm just doing some thinking. Like, in the past when I thought about this, I was like, Aurora would show up for sure. And then I'm like, no, actually, she probably wouldn't. Which is kind of great. That's what some of this brainstorming and Wolf Talk is for, is to kind of go back and look at things that I may have previously said in like side stories and stuff of what actually happened in between. And if Aurora was there with Fridley and Teo and Sundance, I almost feel like Mikhail, Kirby, and Teo would have gone. And Fridley and Sundance and Aurora would have stayed back to watch all the pups, because they literally have 3 litters worth of pups there. So 3 adults per litter. I like the sound of that. And then the other 3 go to rescue Dusk, and they do. Once they show up, essentially the Crevice Lake wolves like run with tails in between their legs, because it's 2 against 4 at that point, and even though it's really more like 3.5, it's still 4 wolves, and they realize they're outnumbered and they run away. And no one makes chase because they're more concerned about Dusk, who looks like a skeleton. and the pup that's dead on the ground that they see. At this point, with Mikhail being there, I imagine he would look for Dawn almost immediately. Seeing Dusk, he would realize who it was, and then he would look for Dawn and ask Dusk, where is she? Where is Dawn? Have they taken her? Has she run off? What is going on? Dusk is tired. He's exhausted. His eyes are wide. His pupils are dilated. He's breathing hard. He looks like he's gonna die. Mikhail panics. Absolutely panics. Kirby is trying to tell the pups that it's all right, that she'll take care of them. She's not going to hurt them. Teo is kind of like looking to make sure the Crevice Lake wolves don't come back. But Mikhail has not budged from his position. Where is she? Why isn't she here? Where is she? Why haven't I heard her? And I think Dusk would look down meekly, going from the strong king that he was next to his queen to nothing in front of Mikhail, who has been the king of this pack for so long, and would just say, she's gone.